WWE in 2013 was dominated by the story of one man. He debuted for the company as part of NXT, won a major title in a triple threat match, and is famous for sporting a very dashing beard. That's right, 2013 was the year of Curtis Axel. After beating The Miz and Wade Barrett for the Intercontinental Championship, Axel went on to, wait a second, Daniel who? Oh yeah, that guy. Daniel Bryan's fairy tale rise to the top got properly underway in 2013 when Randy Orton cashed in on the American Dragon at SummerSlam. Fans were disappointed that night when their hero lost his championship mere minutes after he won it, but at least that wasn't the only thing they were disappointed by in 2013. WWE was still in a weird halfway house this year, slowly moving away from the cartoonish awfulness of the early 2010s, but with enough of that left over to produce some total stinkers across the year. So get your nose pegs ready, because we're about to sniff them out. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 worst WWE matches of 2013. Join us. Number 10, John Cena vs. The Rock at WrestleMania 29. WrestleMania 29 was not a great show. Sure, it had CM Punk vs. The Undertaker, but it also had Alberto Del Rio vs. Jack Swagger and a P. Diddy concert. Come at me, Diddy heads. Perhaps the most underwhelming match of the night, though, was the main event, a once-in-a-generation clash between The Rock and John Cena. But wait, hang on, didn't those two have a once-in-a-generation clash the year before, or did WWE lie to us? They wouldn't, would they? Unfortunately, the marketing for WrestleMania 28 turned out to be a giant pork pie. The entire show was sold around the idea of Cena vs. Rock being once in a lifetime, but it turns out that the lifetime the company meant was that of a mayfly. Hardly anybody had the desire to see these two wrestle again, especially not for the WWE title, and especially not in the main event of WrestleMania. This match was basically just a less good version of the 28 one, ending in predictably boring fashion when Cena pinned Rocky to win the belt in a rather forced torch-passing moment. You can see why CM Punk had so much to complain about. At least nobody bit Cena backstage though, that we know of. Number 9, Eva Marie, JoJo and Natalya vs. Oksana, Alicia Fox and Rosa Mendez on Raw. JoJo Offerman served as NXT's ring announcer in 2015 and then Raw's ring announcer from 2016 to 2018. Talk about a downgrade. But did you know she used to be a wrestler too? Well, she did, and she made her debut in this match right here. Although I don't actually really know what she did in it. This very short, very inconsequential 6-woman tag from Raw featured some of the least polished women's wrestlers the company has ever had. They put on what would have been considered a fine match for the time, but watching it now is torturous in spite of its brevity. Basically, nothing exciting happens at all, with the finish of Natty tapping out Foxy serving as an alarm clock to wake up everyone watching. What's more, the new stars in this match, Eva Marie and JoJo, barely do anything. I don't even know if JoJo actually got tagged in, and I don't really care. The epitome of the piss break concept that dogged women's wrestling in WWE for years, this match would have probably just about escaped this list if it wasn't for JoJo's baffling involvement. Or lack thereof. Number 8, Mark Henry vs. Damien Sandow on Raw. Damien Sandow had a rough old time in 2013, and we will get to the main reason for that in just a little bit. As the year was coming to a close, I bet he was really looking forward to it all being over so that he could go home to his mansion, pour himself a nice glass of whiskey, and do whatever it is that smart people do at Christmas. I soon play Trivial Pursuit or something. Instead though, on the December 23rd, 2013 episode of Raw, WWE had him dress up like Father Christmas and get obliterated by Mark Henry. Bah humbug. In what was dubbed the Battle for Christmas, Sandow played the part of Bad Santa, presumably because Billy Bob Thornton wasn't available. Henry was in the role of Good Santa, and if he lost this match, then Christmas would be cancelled for everyone. Except it wouldn't be, because it's just a wrestling match. I'm pretty sure that Vince McMahon didn't actually have the authority to cancel Christmas. Pretty sure, not fully sure mind, he might have tried, you know. The match was a bog standard comedy weapons match, you know the sort, that saw Sandow get battered like a cod. In the end, Henry blasted Sandow with a fire extinguisher to end this pointless encounter and put the intellectual savior of the masses out of his misery. Number 7, Tensai versus Titus ONeill on Main Event. Did you guys know that Main Event is still a thing? You can watch it on the WWE Network. They actually still make it, I promise. Pretty unbelievable, right? Because it's been completely pointless as far back as the 30th of January 2013. That is, of course, the date that the show was closed out by a mouth-watering clash between Titus ONeill and Lord Tensai. Mouth-watering in the sense that you've fallen asleep and you're dribbling everywhere. For 13 hideous minutes, the two big men hit each other, then moved around, then hit each other again, then maybe they would tease an actual power move or a proper spot before hitting each other once more. It just dragged on and on and on, and not even a run-in from Brodus Clay and the Funkadactyls could make it interesting. I say that like having Cameron or Tyrus present has ever made anything more interesting. Fortunately, this match was ultimately harmless because only about 3 people ever watched Main Event. Still, it was taped before SmackDown in those days, so pity the poor souls who had to sit through this painfully boring blunder in order to get to the blue show. Number 6, Total Divas versus True Divas at Survivor Series. Total Divas was a reality show following the lives of WWE's female performers that aired from 2013 to 2019. Highlights of the show include Paige pretending to feed Natalya hash brownies, Natalya learning to climb a ladder, and Natalya peeing herself during a match. Honestly, Natty, what did we do to deserve you? And the Anvil's daughter was one of the names involved in this match from Survivor Series. Actually, calling it a match is perhaps a bit much. It was more of an advert, as its sole purpose was to promote Total Divas. The teams consisted of women who were on the show and women who weren't, with the perpetual anti-diva AJ Lee leading the True Divas team. And what did AJ get for standing up against trashy reality TV? Why, she got submitted by Natalya, of course. No word on what the state of Natty's bladder was during this sequence. It was just a nothing match with eliminations happening way too easily and quickly to care. Whilst it probably didn't deserve the Wrestling Observer newsletter's Worst Worked Match of the Year award, it was still pretty naff. Hopefully it persuaded some people to watch Total Divas, otherwise this whole thing would have been a giant waste of time. Actually, it was a waste of time anyway, obviously. Number 5, Fandango and Summer Rae versus the Great Khali and Natalya at Hell in a Cell. Sticking with Natalya now, and a match that she was probably the best part of. Although when you look at those involved, you'll realise that she really wasn't up against much. No offense, Dango. During a bout between sexy ballroom dancer Fandango and sexy lumbering tree man, the Great Khali, Natalya got into a fight with Dango's valet/dance partner, Summer Rae. This led to a mixed tag team match at Hell in a Cell, with Summer making her main roster in-ring debut. And boy, could you tell. Summer just struggled to click in this match, taking a very long time to connect with any of her moves, often looking lost and confused. Natalya did her best to work with her, but there was really only so much she could do. As for Khali, well, he could barely walk without falling over, let alone have a decent match. Honestly, it would have probably been better if WWE just let Dango wrestle Natty. We did get a glimpse of that when she went to put the sharpshooter on him, but sadly, the rest of the match was unentertaining, clumsy dross. Oh, and Hornswoggle was at ringside for some reason. Always makes everything better, Hornswoggle. Number 4, Mark Henry versus Ryback at WrestleMania 29. A match sold on the idea of two monsters going head to head, this encounter from WrestleMania ironically ended up being a monstrosity itself. In a tale as old as wrestling time, two of the biggest men WWE had on the roster, the big guy Ryback and the world's strongest man Mark Henry, were put in the ring with each other like two giant bulls ready to fight it out to the death. Unfortunately, the only thing that died during this match was the audience's interest. Henry took 90% of the match, utilizing offense that would have been deemed passé in 1981. We're talking clotheslines, body slams, bear hugs. A bear hug in 2013 at WrestleMania? Come on, Mark, you're better than this. The sole highlight of the match came when Ryback picked Henry up for the shell shocked, which genuinely got a huge pop from the crowd. This didn't last though, as Henry just flopped down on top of his opponent and pinned him for the win. Great. Here was a young guy who 6 months previously had been in the WWE Championship picture, losing to a man who had been in the company since the mid-90s. This was just a bad showing all round, and the perfect example of the worst kind of big man wrestling. Number 3, John Cena versus Damien Sandow on Raw. Remember Damien Sandow dressing dressing up as Santa Claus from earlier in this list? Well, this match is the reason that happened. At Money in the Bank, Sandow won the SmackDown briefcase, meaning that he was entitled to a World Heavyweight Championship match at any time of his choosing. That time came on the October 28, 2013 edition of Raw, when he chose to strike a prone John Cena. After teasing a cash-in, Sandow attacked the already injured arm of the champion, smashing it multiple times with his briefcase and driving him shoulder first into the ring post. He then cashed in for realsies and the title match was on. Sandow hit the champ with everything, including his finisher. However, as he is one to do, Super Cena powered through the pain and put Damien down with a single AA. Sandow never recovered from this, coming nowhere close to the main event ever again. In one fell swoop, Sandow went from being a fantastic heel with serious upper mid-card potential to an undercard joke with one of the least appealing records in wrestling history. Number 2, Bray Wyatt versus Kane at SummerSlam. We are going back to where it all began for the enigma that is Bray Wyatt. Well, unless you count his Husky Harris days, which we don't. In July of 2013, the Wyatt family made their main roster debut with a vicious attack on Kane. Wyatt, Harper, and Rowan continued to assault the Big Red Machine over the following weeks until the future mayor of Knox County decided that enough was enough and a match was made for SummerSlam. It was a Ring of Fire match, which is like an Inferno match, except you don't actually have to set your opponent on fire to win. You know, the part that actually makes the match exciting. In this version of the gimmick, Wyatt and Kane plodded around a ring surrounded by flames for 8 agonizing minutes. Neither man could leave the ring, nor could they make use of the apron or ropes, which severely limited what they could actually do. Bray won in the end, which was the right call considering this was his first match, but it was hardly the shining showcase that fans wanted from the character. Thankfully, this was the last time Bray would have a stupid match involving flames. Isn't that right, 2020 Randy Orton? Number 1, Randy Orton versus The Big Show at Survivor Series. Big Show in a world title main event in 2013. Yep, this really happened. Basically, WWE management saw that Daniel Bryan was getting over with the whole yes thing, but they didn't want to push Bryan because he wasn't their idea of a top star. So they decided to take the yes chant and transplant it onto someone else. What could possibly go wrong? Paul White was thrust into the title picture as the company-appointed man of the people, pretending to ignore the sea of Daniel Bryan chants as he waged war against the authority. This all led to this title match with Orton, which lasted a whopping 11 minutes and only featured about 11 different wrestling moves. No one believed that Show was actually going to win this match, and thankfully they were right. The match was predictable, sloppy, lazy, and came off the back of a frankly insulting storyline, whilst the real fan favourite was nowhere to be seen. This bout was just awful on every level, and when you're as tall as The Big Show, that's a lot of levels.